Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for this Back to School with Bookshare webinar. My name is Laura Ronberg, and I will be going through all the basics about Bookshare, everything you need to get started. Just a few logistics. We will be sending out a recording of the webinar in case you have to jump off. I know everyone's really busy and the back to school season this year is in full swing. So no worries, we will be sending out the recording and along with a copy of the slideshow so you can review it at a later time. And again, thank you for joining. We'll go through the slides. There'll be a website demo, and then we'll have some time for questions and answers. And in the meantime, you can put any questions you have into the question and answer box. So today we will be covering what is Bookshare, what books are in the Bookshare library, who is eligible, and how to read Bookshare books. So a few quick Bookshare facts. Bookshare is operated by a company called Benetech. We are a nonprofit technology company based in California. And Benetech believes that equitable access to education is a basic human right. So all of our technology and services that Benetech provides, the goal is really to break down systemic barriers and empower learners regardless of ability. We serve over 900,000 students in all 50 states. Over 40,000 schools and districts have Bookshare accounts, and over 20 million books have been downloaded over the past decade. A service like Bookshare exists because printed text does not work for everybody. At least 5%, if not more, of students experience a barrier to reading traditional printed books. Just because something is digital, whether that's an online textbook or a website, there's been a lot more digital resources, especially since the pandemic. But just because something is digital and on a screen does not make it accessible for students who do require alternative methods of accessing their materials. To fully participate in the classroom, these students need access to the same materials at the same time as their peers in the formats that work for them. So this is where Bookshare comes in. Bookshare is an online library of millions of ebooks, including textbooks, and every of these million plus titles can be accessed as an audiobook, audio with highlighted digital text, braille, digital braille, and large print. So every title can be accessed in the way that a learner might need it. Best of all, Bookshare is free for all qualified U.S. students, and that's students of any age, thanks to our funding from the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Special Education Programs. The collection is very vast. It includes textbooks, books for assigned and pleasure reading, New York Times bestsellers, American Library Association award winners, career and technical training materials, the study guides for all the different standardized tests a student might take, a GED, high school equivalency, PSATs, SATs, MCATs, LSATs, all the study guides for the standardized tests. So it's a really vast collection for learners of any age, pre-K, K-12, quite the collection of post-secondary textbooks and related reading materials, plus career and technical training materials for people who go on into a trade or vocational education program, plus all the books people might want to read of any age that want to read for pleasure. The Bookshare books do use the voices that are built into whatever device a student is using, and we'll go into a little bit more of that later. But I did want to point out that we have a new and growing collection of some human narrated titles as well, a couple thousand of those. We were gifted those by a publisher. We did not pick which titles we would get in the human narrated format, but it does include books for all ages and all genres. So I wanted to point that out. Not everyone realizes we do have some human narrated titles. Bookshare is available 24/7 for teachers and students. Everything is accessed through the website. cloud-based, so there's no need to check out a book or place a hold. The books are always available and instantly available, and no limits on how long a student has to read a book. And it just makes it, very convenient without, like some of the other digital book libraries, you actually have to check it out. Maybe someone else is reading it. You're waiting for for them to finish. Bookshare books always available. There are many ways to read Bookshare books on the devices that students already have access to. It does not require the purchase of any particular device. Read books on computers and Chromebooks, smartphones and tablets, Braille devices, the Alexa smart speaker, and other specialized assistive technology devices that a student with a print disability might use. Bookshare has our own suite of reading tools called the Bookshare Reader. There's Bookshare Reader for web that works on computers and Chromebooks, Bookshare Reader for mobile, for smartphones and tablets, and there's an iOS and Android version. And our reading tools are free. And there's a Bookshare skill for the Alexa smart speaker. And what's great about the reading tools that work for Bookshare is the user can fully customize the reading experience. They can change the font type and size. They can select the voice that they wish to listen to the book with, the voice speed, and the color and contrast. And I'll be demonstrating this in a bit, but a lot of ways to customize the presentation of the materials, which can really make a big difference in how someone might interact with the content. So Bookshare does operate under some eligibility criteria. We operate under a provision in the copyright. Any person who has a visual impairment, a reading or learning disability, or a physical disability that prevents them from interacting with traditional print to the same degree as someone without one of these conditions, that they are entitled to accessible versions of published works. So this provision in the copyright law is what enables us to provide it to people who meet the eligibility criteria. So it's not a special education law. It's based on the copyright law. And again, the law does not state any specific diagnoses. It does not state a person has to have, a visual impairment of a certain level. It's up to the professional who is working with the person, and that's you, the educators, whether you be a general educator, a special educator, assistive technology professional, a teacher of the visually impaired, a reading tutor, a librarian, anyone who's been working with the student and notices that they're really struggling with reading printed text. That is who the professionals like you all can make the determination that the student can get access to Bookshare. IEPs or 504 plans are not required to access Bookshare. Many of our members do have one or the other, but it is not a requirement. Again, it is just up to the educators and professionals working with the individual student who makes that determination using your best professional judgment. Obviously, students with visual impairments or physical disabilities might be a little easier to identify. And there's kind of a gray area of students who are reading below grade level. You notice there's something going on. Some of these students might have been diagnosed with dyslexia or specific learning disability, but many, have never been formally evaluated to get a diagnosis such as those. But the educators notice the students have problems with decoding, problems with reading comprehension, consistent reading errors, poor fluency, a very inaccurate or slow reading rate. They might be receiving reading supports through an RTI or MTSS plan. There's also a myriad of symptoms and signs of dyslexia that the research has shown is showing up even in like preschool age children. And you'll have the link to a great site, understood.org, that has a lot of the kind of signs and symptoms that might give an educator a clue that, the student is really, there's something going on. They are not reading where you would expect them, given the reading instruction that they've had, which, if it's been adequate, they're still struggling. These are the kind of things an educator might notice. These are the students that can be given access to Bookshare. Some of these students might have had an evaluation, that has noted that they need an accommodation such as digital or audiobooks or text to speech or braille or large print. So that's another thing if a student has had an evaluation, but they do not need to have had a formal evaluation or any kind of diagnosis to get access to Bookshare. So I really wanted to stress that because that is something that there's sometimes some confusion about who you can add to a Bookshare account. So Bookshare is a great resource. It's free, which is always great. And it really saves teachers time and energy. It is providing that immediate access to AEM, the accessible education materials. Um, Traditionally, districts maybe would have to put in a request to someone at a state level to get a large print version of a book or an audio book and put in a request and wait for it to come. Meanwhile, the class is going on. The students don't have their materials. With Bookshare, it's instant. Everything is just cloud-based and available immediately. Teachers can log in anywhere they have an internet connection and find and assign the books to students. And same for the students. Anywhere that they have cell service or an internet connection, they can log in with the username and password they are given and read their assigned books. So they can be over a vacation, when they're traveling, they'll always have access to their books on their device. So Bookshare offers two account types, organization accounts and individual memberships. Accounts are always free for schools and students. When you go to the Bookshare sign-up page, this is what you see, kind of the four options. I've highlighted the ones that say for students in the United States and schools in the United States. So schools and school districts would sign up where it says schools in United States. Some districts prefer to have one district account for all the students and teachers within the district. Others do it building by building or even multiple accounts within a building. It's really up to how things are done in your district. But there's no, a district could have, sometimes there's an account in the special ed department, the TVIs, the visual department might have their own account. It's up to you. We don't care how you set it up. And then there's individual memberships, and that's for students of any age, always free for them. A parent could individually, independently sign their child up for a Bookshare account, or a college student could sign themselves up if they're over 18. But schools and school districts sign up for what we call our organization membership. So on these organizational accounts, which again can be at the school or district level, educators add their students who qualify. They can, once a teacher is added, we call educators sponsors in our system. You can add your colleagues who also support students who require accessible materials. And then the educators search for the books, and then they assign the books to the students. And I will be demonstrating all this. And then students log in on their computer or Chromebook or mobile device, and they read the books that have been assigned to them. But students can only read the books that their teachers have assigned to them. So the individual membership, which can be added on once a student is on your school or district account, a teacher can very easily add on this individual membership. The parent or legal guardian does have to approve it and sign off on it. It's a couple steps through the website. But what's great about having them add on that individual membership is they can read any book from the collection, minus anything that's been labeled by the publisher adult content. But this can really encourage them to learn that, reading can be really fun. They're not just reading a book they have to for their class. They want to read the Harry Potter books that their friends are reading, or they want to learn about they might have a hobby they want to read more about. They can go and find any book that they want. And they can really see that reading can be fun and opens up a whole new world for them. So it's a great kind of value-added benefit. It's free. When someone is no longer a student, there is a fee to have that individual membership. But as long as someone is a student of any age, Bookshare is free. So that's kind of the quick overview. I'm going to quickly take a look at the questions before we go on to the website. Someone asked a question, do English language learners qualify? So no, they don't. Again, because this is based on the copyright law, the person, an English language learner will be read proficiently once in English once they have a good command of the language. Now, that English language learner could have a visual impairment or a physical impairment, or they might have been diagnosed with dyslexia. They have trouble reading in their native language. Students who have something going on in addition to learning the English language, then they will, then you can add them to Bookshare. But for English language learners, there's a lot of other digital book libraries that are out there that, might benefit them because I think, being able to hear it probably could help them as they're learning the language. But Bookshare does have that eligibility criteria due to adhering to the copyright law. Someone has asked if students can add their own documents to Bookshare. No, right now it's just the fixed library of, I think, 1.4 million books that students can access. But there are other great programs out there that will read a PDF or anything else on the screen. Someone asked if there's a printable copy. I will be sending that out after in the next day or so, along with the recording. Okay, so I'm going to go, there's some more questions. We'll go back. I think some might be answered when we go on to the website. Hopefully you are seeing the website. Great. Okay, I am logged in as a sponsor who in our system, that's what educators are called. And I am on the My Bookshare page, and this is the portal where you add members to the member roster, you add other sponsors to the sponsor roster, and at any time you can see information about your account, you can see who's opened the books that have been assigned. But say, you create an account or you get added by someone in your district, you have some students in mind, you would log into your account on the Bookshare website. The members link brings up the member roster. And here you'll see the student's first name, last name, their school, their grade, the type of membership they have. So students who are just on the school account, it will just say organization. But students whose parent has added on that individual membership, it will show org plus individual, the type of qualifying disability they have, and whether or not they have an IEP or 504, again, which is not required, but if they have it, you can note that. So to add a student, you just select this Add Member button. It will ask for their first and last name, their birth date, and their current grade from the drop-down box. And then students are given a username and password. It can be an email, it can be a nickname, a student ID number, anything that they will remember, and easy for them to log into if they have other logins they use for their school portal. That might, they'll remember that, but that's how they access their assigned books. And then under the section qualifying information, this is what is done for the proof of disability. We don't require any documentation. We don't want any documentation. You simply check visual learning, physical, or all three. And by checking that, you are attesting that to your best professional assessment of the student, they qualify for Bookshare. If they have an IEP or 504, you can check that here. This is not a required field the way the others that have the asterisk. We ask this information for both reporting purposes, and also students who have IEPs have access to a subset of textbooks that are found in the National Instructional Materials Access Center, the NIMAC, which is a repository of textbook and other curriculum materials that was established under IDEA, the special education law. And it states that any textbook or curriculum that a district purchases, that publisher has to make a digital version available to the NIMAC, to this repository. And since it is a special education law that operates in NIMAC, it does require a user having an IEP to access those materials. We have thousands of textbooks in the Bookshare collection, but there are some that we do not have because a publisher has not chosen to give it to us. Our books are given to us by publishers because they know it's the right thing to do, but by law they don't have to. So a publisher might see it as a loss of revenue or might have a reason why they don't want to make it available for free to students, but they do have to give it to the NIMAC. So if the student has the IEP. Um, Bookshare is what's considered an authorized user of the NIMAC in most states. So you search the collection, you see a book, it might say this is a NIMAC restricted title. You can just get it for the student the way you would any book if they have an IEP. So just wanted to mention that they do have an IEP, check that because that is the benefit of that. But again, not required. So you would add your student, they would then appear on the member roster. And then again, I mentioned that students have to have a book assigned to them. They can just not log it. They can't log in and search and read a book. It has to be assigned to them. So there's a couple different ways to search. There's a search bar at the top of the page. You can type in a title, author, or ISBN in the search box. I typed in Harry Potter. Pulls up, we have all that, we have the full Harry Potter series, screenplays, the books written about Harry Potter. And so that's just one way to bring up, a pretty wide search. We have an advanced search page where you can search for a word in a title, any number of search fields for a more narrow search. If you know you want books that contain images, you can check that. Many of our books with images also can have the audible image description. So a student listening to a book, they would hear, image of a boy sitting under a tree reading a book, which is great for students with visual impairments to be able to hear, a description of what image is on the page. Books, we do have books in a variety of languages. Again, going back to that question about English language learners. Learning English in of itself does not give them access to Bookshare, but if they have a co-occurring print disability, you can. But there are books in a variety of languages. There's also options to filter by category. You have a student who loves animals in second grade, say grade 2, books about animals, millions of cats. That will pull up those books. The third way to find books is this browse link under the search bar, which takes you to what we call our Explore page. And here is where the Bookshare collections team has put special collections. We have the New York Times fiction, nonfiction, what books are popular for teens, and these are frequently updated. It's new. Featured books. There's a category for educators. If you're using like the accelerated reader systems, the book by all the different accelerated reader levels. Oops. Back to the educators. The different leveled readers that are out there, Fontes Pinnell, National Geographic. So just this is a way, if you're not really sure what you want your students to read, you can look here, disability theme, and these are constantly updated with different topics. If there's a month celebrating a group of people or a topic, we'll have something there. So here, there's also links to the advanced search. I mentioned we have the human narrated books. This is an easy way to find them. When you select this link, it will pull up, and this will be all the books. So there's 3,000, a little over 3,000 books. And again, books for any ages. And then you can come here and sort by topic. So the Explore page is just a great way to, kind of see what's in the collection, browse by language, browse by category. So I'm just going to go back to our list of Harry Potter books. Say this is the book I want to assign to my student. When you click on the book title, there's a synopsis, some details about a book, the pages, and so forth. All you have to do to assign a book is select that assign button. It will pull up your member roster. Again, with the copyright law, each title has to be assigned to a qualified member. Say all your students are going to read this book. You can say, I want to assign it to all. You can select, a few, whoever you want to assign the book to. You hit that assign button, and then that book is instantly assigned to the student. They would log in that minute and you'll see it right there. They don't get any type of notification that a book has been assigned to them. But you tell them, I've assigned some books to you. I want, pick one, or here's the title I want you to read. They log in on the device of their choice and see the book that has been assigned to them. You can also create reading lists of books. I won't go into that today, but you can set up a reading list of, say, at the beginning of the school year, there's 10 books that all your students will need to read. You add them to one list, assign your students to that list, and then they have access to all those 10 books. It just takes a minute or two to set it up, but that's just another way. But after I show you the student reading experience, I'll show you where some of the support and training resources on our website, where you can find more information about the reading list and all the other Bookshare processes. So I'm going to log out as the teacher and log in as a student. And this is a student on a school account. So the student would log in and they'll see the recent books that they've read. They click on the assigned books, and this again, if they're on a computer or Chromebook, they would see all the books that have been assigned to them and any reading lists that a teacher might have assigned to them. So for today, they're going to read an assigned book, and all they have to do, the quickest and easiest way to read a book, is to select this Read Now button. That will open the book. It just opens it in another browser tab. And this is what would be called the Bookshare Reader for Web, which is for any computer or Chromebook. So the book just opens. There's nothing to download, no files to deal with. And then once the book has opened, there's a table of contents icon, so they can jump to where they want to start reading. And then there's this gear icon, and this is where they can customize it to the look and feel, what's going to work for them. So the audio, as I mentioned, it uses the audio that is built into their device. And so that differs whether you're using a Mac, a PC, even what browser you're using. So I am on a PC and I am using the Edge browser, Microsoft's Edge browser. Microsoft has a line of what they call natural voices that are a lot more lifelike than the standard voices that have been on PCs for years. They're called natural, and as you can see, there's off selections, both male and female voices. There's voices of different age, voices with different English voices with different accents. So a lot of options. One voice might just resonate better with someone than another. They can play a sample. They can slow down or speed up the audio. Again, it's a personal preference. Can check whether they want to voice the page numbers or the image descriptions. Here they can change the font size. Maybe someone just needs a larger font. Very easy to just adjust the font there. And then the font style, a variety of font styles, including the Open Dyslexic font, which some people with dyslexia like, others don't. Again, personal, but some people and some dyslexia specialists feel that the way the letters are weighted will help them track as they're reading. Again, might be a personal preference. They can change the character spacing. Sometimes just having more white space on the page helps. They can choose to read it paginated, facing pages the way a book would look like, or just one scrolling text. Can change the margins and the line spacing. So again, maybe someone just needs more space in between the lines to help them follow along. They can set that up to how they like it, display page numbers. Lastly, there's color and contrast options, the white background with a dark font, or a dark background with a light font, or some muted options. These are all the presets. And again, sometimes just changing that will make a difference. And they can start with that white background and then make it any color um, for the background and the text. And then it does have the sentence and word level highlighting. So again, sometimes kids think it's fun just to, select different colors that they're going to see when the book is reading. So just very personal of what will work for someone. Let me make sure my sound, okay, got my sound on. So to begin reading, they can either just double click anywhere or hit the play button, which will start at the top of what is the page.
This is my inside voice. The warrior veiled. Baby Zeus began crying again. The three warriors immediately busted out some sweet tribal dance moves.
So as you can see, it highlights the sentence and then the word. As soon as it's voiced by the reader, the audio, that word is highlighted. And that was one of Microsoft's natural voices. And so I just mentioned that. I know if a student's using a Chromebook, they might not have the ability to download the browser, but if someone has access to a computer with the Edge browser, it does have those better voices. Google, if you're in Google Chrome on a PC, it has a Google, I think it's called the OS female voice. That is a little better than what I think Microsoft has traditionally built in. Chromebooks have another voice that's available. If you're on a Mac, there's a whole series of voices there. I think they have like 30 different voices to choose from. So the voice really will depend on the device and the browser that they're using. And then again, the mobile device, smartphones, tablets have their own voices. So that is how a student would read a book in the web reader, which is the fastest, easiest way to read. But some students might actually want to download a file, or maybe they're reading on a Braille device that requires they download a file and then import it into the device. And the format that a student would download for a specific type of assistive technology really would depend on the make and model of that device. They're all different. But for the Braille devices, sometimes it's the BRF, the refreshable Braille format. Others take Daisy text. There are some Braille devices that you can download a Word document and import that in, and the Braille will convert that text to Braille. So again, the type of file format would depend on maybe a specific device that someone is using that has a requirement for a file type, but every Bookshare book is available in any of these formats. Student just wants to listen, they download it and like MP3 file and transfer that to their smartphone or MP3 player and listen to it when they're on a car ride, or maybe they just prefer to listen. Every book can be downloaded as a Word document. That Word document in of itself won't have all the accessibility features, but some versions of Word, have the immersive reader that will read it, or maybe a student has a screen reading software built into their computer. Maybe they have, read and write extension is a popular one that's used in a lot of districts where they could download the document and it would read that. Or have a document put in their Google Drive and have it read from there. So, a lot of different options depending on how someone wants to read and then the devices they have access to. The Bookshare reader for mobile, it looks very similar to the reader for web. It has the gear where they can customize the settings and select the audio. And again, on iOS mobile device and Android device, they have different voices, but the mobile devices do tend to have better voices. Plus, it's so convenient. The student would have access to all their books, in the palm of their hand. There's some other apps that integrate with Bookshare, where you just log into the app with the username and password. I'll show you some links where you can see the other reading tools. I'll show you that. But I just wanted to demonstrate our Bookshare reader. Computers and Chromebook, which is just the easiest way, does not require any file downloads. When a student does download a book file, it'll be saved on the computer wherever downloads go. On that device, usually it's the My Downloads folder. And then depending on how they're going to read it, they would transfer, either some of the assistive technology devices have used USB, others do it with Bluetooth, just would then import that file into to that device. So a lot of different ways to read for what works best for that student. So I would like to show you some of, we have a large variety of help articles and learning articles. You can find them either when you're logged in on your My Bookshare page. There's the Help and Learning Center. If you are on the main homepage, the bookshare.org homepage, you can also get to it at the bottom under Help, the Help and Learning Center. So two ways to get there. You can search the Help Center. This will pull up, that will pull up some of our help articles. We have links to some of the frequently asked questions. This is probably the number one question that our customer support team gets asked. Reset passwords, how do I sign up? Who qualifies? So if you click on one of these buttons, it will take you to just one page, one article that addresses that topic. We also have the search by topic where it will bring up all the articles that are tagged. So I selected reading books. There's 25 results that come up that the various articles about reading books. So here's one, how do I hear quality voices for Bookshare books? We have some tips. I mentioned about reading with the Edge browser. That is not always feasible. We have some other tips here of ways of getting some better voices to use to listen to the Bookshare books. I mentioned the read and write. That's a great extension that there's a read and write for Google, there's for Windows, there's Chromebooks. I think iPads as well now. It's a third-party app that, from what I hear, many districts do have purchased and have available to students. They have some voices built into that extension that you can open the book in the Bookshare reader, open your read and write toolbar, and select the voice from there and use the reading functions of that extension, which have some better voices as well. And so this page just has some tips. Apple makes some what they call enhanced or premium voices that you can download onto your iOS device and some as well. So this the Help and Learning Center page is kind of the repository of all of our help articles, which are usually short, more FAQ style articles. And then we have our learning articles that are more comprehensive. The ABCs of Bookshare for Educators is a great place to start. If you just have this one link, it will tell you everything you need to know to use Bookshare. Everything, why would a student need a Bookshare book? The process for signing up, setting up your school's account. So when you select one of those links, it will tell you the steps to add other teachers, how you add your students, how you add on that individual membership. And then it kind of walks you through the steps like I demonstrated. You added your student, the different ways of searching, the different ways of assigning books. I showed you the assign and read, that blue button. And here's the steps for creating a reading list. So that ABC for Educators is kind of your one-stop shop. You'll have the link in the presentation that you'll receive in the email. Also on this page, some of the other learning articles I wanted to point out. This is a new resource we have called the Implementation Hub for educators and families. Over the years, we've been asked a lot, like from teachers ask, like, how would I integrate Bookshare into my classroom? And how, do you provide lesson plans or any tips? So we put together just some strategies that really, they're not specific to reading with Bookshare, but just some activities that you can incorporate with your students who are using Bookshare books, before reading, during reading. When you select these links, it just brings you to some information, just some tips on activities and ways you can use to reinforce the learnings of what students are reading and the content. So, Bookshare provides the content, and then it's up to the educators to figure out how does that best work in their classroom. Some students will sit in the classroom and read their Bookshare book on their device while other students maybe are reading the hard copy books. Others maybe just use Bookshare at home. So whatever works for the way your school, the way your classroom is structured and the way students read other books during the school day. There's a learning article, What Reading Tools Work with Bookshare. I showed you our Bookshare reader for web. There's some more information about it here. There's some how-to guides of kind of the step-by-steps of using it. And then we offer information about some of the compatible partner apps, our partner tools. Here you can filter by the type of device. So say, your students use Chromebooks. In addition to the Bookshare Reader for web, Dolphin Easy Reader makes a software that can be used on a Chromebook. There's CapD Personal. Say, you have an iOS device. Again, Dolphin, Voice Dream. These are third-party companies that integrate with Bookshare. So we have links to the companies that make them. We just provide this for reference because we know, there's not one way of reading that works for everybody. And sometimes just changing, one app versus another will make a difference in how students will interact with their text. We have over, 1.4 million, but there might be a book in the collection that we don't have. Educators can request it. Here's the How Do I Request a Book? That's on that front page of the Help and Learning Center. Here's a little article about the process for requesting a book, but I'm logged in as a student. So students cannot request books. But when you're logged in, when you select that book request form, it's just a short form, put in the title, the ISBN, any information about the book, and our team will work to get that incorporated into the collection. So again, that is hot linked right up here on our frequently asked questions on the Help and Learning Center. Hopefully you're seeing my PowerPoint. Yes. And it will have our customer support information. So to get started, find out if your school or district already has an account. It might be with the assistive technology department, the special ed, the visual impairment. If they don't have an account already, you can create one for your district, for your school, for your caseload, whatever works best for you. On your My Bookshare page, you add your qualified students, assign books, and help students read. Our online training resources that I showed, the Help and Learning Center, the ABCs, the Implementation Hub. These are all links you'll have in the presentation. I also wanted to mention we have a new online training module where you can get 2 hours of professional development. It was created in conjunction with the Iris Center at the Vanderbilt University, that they have a very robust special educator professional training program. There's a great online module that goes into everything Bookshare and beyond, really more about accessible education materials and a lot of background about that. And it's free, and you can get 2 hours of professional development if you register to take that module. So you'll have that link to that. Our customer support team, you'll find their telephone and email on the bottom of the Help and Learning Center page, bookshare.org/contact us, and telephone that is answered by live people, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific times. There's my email, laura.r@benetech.org. Feel free to email me with any questions that might come up, or our customer support team as well. But I'm happy to help, whether that's looking up to see if your district has an account or any issues that someone might be having. You can reach out to me. When the webinar ends, a survey will pop up. It's a quick 5-question survey. We'd love your feedback. It helps us inform our content. There's a space to write in a question or any comments that you can get. That link will also be provided in the post-event email that has the link to the recording if you don't have time to do it now. But I thank you so much for joining me today. Sorry I kept you over, but hopefully it's been interesting and informative. And everyone, I hope you have a great back to school.